Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's very spooky fifth online reading event. Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. My name is Tom Snarski, and as one of the co-organizers of Performance Anxiety, I am happy to be the MC of tonight's Halloween-themed poetry séance. If you would be interested in sharing your work at a future event, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me on Twitter at Tom Snarsky, TomSnarski, or via email at tomsnarsky with the same spelling at gmail.com. You can also get in touch with Kristen Garth, the other co-organizer of the series, and we'll let you know how when she shares her poems with us later this evening. At each of our events, we feature up to 10 different readers, who usually each have up to 5 minutes to share a selection of their writing with us. Tonight's reading is a little different for a couple of reasons. First, we have 9 readers or so in the queue, so each poet will have a little bit more time to share their work. That's not all our readers will be sharing tonight, however. In honor of the spooky season, we've asked each of our readers to choose one poem by a dead poet to read to us this evening as well, séance style. So I'm really excited to not only hear the work of some amazingly vital contemporary poets, but also the dead poets who've inspired them and inspired the people who inspired them, and so on. So without any further ado, we're going to proceed to our first reader, who's graciously volunteered to go first, a returner to Performance Anxiety. We're going to welcome Sarah Matson to the floor. Sarah Matson's poems can be found in the Journal Petra, Data Bleed, Ghost City Review, and elsewhere. Her chapbook, Electric Grandma, is available from Another New Calligraphy, and I'm really excited because Another New Calligraphy means Sarah and I are pressmates, which is a real honor for me. Also, her chaplet, Forgotten Women in Science, is available from Damaged Goods Press. Sarah lives in Chicago with her rad husband and cats, and tweets as @Skeletor Thanks so much for being on Performance Anxiety, Sarah. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. It's so great to be back. I really appreciate it, Tom and Kristen. I'm so thrilled to be reading with all you amazing writers. So Halloween has always been my very favorite holiday, and it holds an indelible place in my heart because I got married on Halloween in 2014. To the most rad human, so that's cool. So this first poem is inspired by the namesake movie, and more broadly, the portrayal and commodification of female bodies in pop culture. Really light stuff. So this poem is called Barbarella. Fighting salacious space babes and fearless operators, personal willing material, wrapped in metaphor. Our geode playwright carved fetish into consciousness. The beginning was monsters, steep, episodic lilies with trusting fragility, an obsession jinx, while a beautiful palette coos into breasts and cosmetic opinion. Tulips responsible for profound manifestations caused a fervor of thigh-high years stretched across the tarot deck like web fingers against the light of day. This next poem is called Black and White and is forthcoming from Drunk Monkeys. Keeping in the scary theme, this poem is part of a larger project that I'm working on concerning the Chernobyl disaster of 1986. This is Black and White. Rapidly blinking, her vision became an old film reel. Opening her throat, cancerous necklaces spilled onto cotton poly blends. Elsewhere, a man barked and blood jumped into my mouth. Spit trail backtrack. Astrological decay waits for no one. Her movie began to skip, but it wasn't really noticeable. Eyes were already gone. Buttered crackers underfoot. There was enough room for everyone, and we all loved noir. My next poem is part of a manuscript I'm working on about fashion and gender, and is called Ready to Wear. Ooh, pardon. Broiling electric, valiantly, he cut a billowing shot from a rattled tumbler. Scared and audaciously cliched, power and slyly sexual commentary. Sick, slick fetish crescent moon. PVC fearless. Sharper, pragmatic underscores captivated the symbolic fashion, spirit-bearer, luxurious nomad. He became that which reverberates, wondrous. A mythic beast with luxe openness, dissolving instinctive ideals and time, defiantly celebratory and inclusive, snapshot in warm snow, burrow into wave after wave. The final poem I'd like to read tonight is called The Mighty Dapner. It is written by Ukrainian poet Taras Shevchenko, and it was translated by John Weir. I chose this because it's eerie and ominous, even though it's very nature-focused. And while Shevchenko isn't really a well-known poet here, he's quite famous in Ukraine. He was a contemporary to Edgar Allan Poe. So I'd like to use this spooky occasion and channel Shevchenko from the ether for the mighty Dapner. The mighty Dapner roars and bellows. The wind in anger howls and raves. Down to the ground it bends the willows, and mountain high lifts up the waves. The pale-faced moon picked out this moment to peek out from behind a cloud. Like a canoe upon the ocean, it first tips up and then tips down. The roosters don't crow to wake the morning. There's not as yet a sound of man. The owls in glades call out their warnings, and ash trees creak and creak again. Thank you so much for having me. Happy Halloween. I am Sarah Matson.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much for getting us started with a beautiful moon poem for the seance, a little bit of moon. And I loved your line, and we all loved noir because we absolutely do tonight. And just as a reminder, Sarah is on Twitter at Skeletor Writes, and her chapbook Electric Grandma is available from Another New Calligraphy, a press I am deeply biased towards. They're great. So thank you so much again, Sarah. And we're going to move right into our next reader, Bill Newmeyer. So Bill Newmeyer, Bill's first book, Estrus, was a semi-finalist for the 42 Miles Press Award, and his second full-length manuscript was a finalist for the Barrow Street Prize and has recently been picked up for publication in May 2022. He reviews books for Vallum and for Verdad, where he also serves as poetry editor. You can find him on Twitter at WJ Newmeyer, Neumire. So take it away, Bill. Thanks so much for being on Performance Anxiety with us tonight.
Thanks, Tom. Sorry, I'm trying to get my microphone button back on. I'm afraid my poems are only terrifying in the subdued, domestic, deep terror of humanity sense, but I'll do what I can here. So the first poem is called What I Tried to Say. Was I catch myself dissolving into the smallest possible way to be anything? That there was a quiet couple haunting the mall last night? That a parasite injects male crabs with estrogen so they'll build nests they can't fill? Elegies fluoresced for us, a god we were forging by forgetting. We were in heaps of furniture to study our children's secrets. I miss you in that way. Dear to each other now, we are close to an answer we'll never believe, to this river that glasses the impassable. It's a trick I wasn't ready for. A trick I haven't survived. You've been sleeping so long in the fan's whisper. I want you to know I am still in me. I am still in me. This next poem, the title of the poem is As a Privacy of Owls Gathers, I Have No Form for Approaching You. And it's two sections. The first section is called Idiolalia, which is like a speech disorder. And it talks about Io as in the Greek character Io, literally the letters Io. I of the old ideal daily disappear, and here we are, reading Io's journals, howls turn to lows and canvas oils. In the pines here and there are idols perched, Iliads laid in dahlias. How will I die while I owe so much to crane-held deus ex machina, to the idea of day? Owls aren't all eyes, you know. They are an idle sigh, a series of numbers I dial at night on a retired rotary phone. In the attic I pick up the phone, sleeping one, and speak to you in the old words we taught each other to survive. Section 2, Lagnolalia. Io, I want to touch your long lie of almost gone. You lost in a lagoon spooning moonlight, gallons of glow showing you the sky, its agony of eyes, its alien lows. For this loan me a shape, to fit on a nail to hang my O. I want to form an ology of you, before the owls come, the gang of goons, they take so many shapes, to tear us up for our summer smell. Fuck them and their mirrory eyes, they are lies, they are lies. I want you and your unquestioning tone, your terrified understanding, the way you're a gong alone in the vibrating night. This next one is called Dear American Evening, plan called Happy Hour. At 4, my daughter took my phone and recorded all the leaves on our hike and spoke like a documentarian, and like all the leaves were alive, and each a different species hidden in stillness. But sometimes all I want, still, is to inflict my body on the world, to be the opposite of a multi-level marketing scheme, to never be ashamed of even my violence, of even my objectification, which is a perpetuation strategy, which is a first step. And here's a plan called Happy Hour, like when I was young and we were practicing being dramatic without understanding that everything is already dramatic, and we'd say, I'm so drunk right now, to get away with saying the realest thing we could. This one is called It's Not As If You Haven't Heard the News. The television is the largest organ of the house, and the plan can accommodate up to 12 devices. Have you read the circulating registry of local priests accused of sexual abuse? Seen the Amazon burning like a demon pregnancy? But it's not as if the Friends didn't come up yesterday in the 92-degree afternoon with Keystone and Hoffman's and back tattoos of bonsai trees. And didn't we glisten in chlorinated splash? Didn't we guilt out on the guilt-free menu? We pray the way orphans pray. What is there? Gravitational ritual of wanting? Some hugs? A history of history? It's not as if a heart packed in ice can't last a few hours. The mouse from inside the shop vac tube dashed scared into the lawn's cover, but you screamed and told me to stomp it out anyway. Later we found its pile of babies, one still squeaking in the folding chair. It's not as if everything you love came free. There are nights, more now, when you think of the generator, ammo, medicine expiration. Not zombies, but what survival will make us. Tell me again about your specialness. Tell me again how you taste. The ice cream truck's sun-drunk tune slowly scans the streets like a SWAT van looking for traitors as solar lights dimly redeliver the eternal day. Let's see here. And then this last poem by a dead poet is Ask Me by William Stafford, a poem that was one of the first poems when I was young that I really loved. Ask Me by William Stafford. Sometime when the river is ice, ask me mistakes I've made. Ask me whether what I have done is my life. Others have come in their slow way into my thought, and some have tried to help or to hurt. Ask me what difference their strongest love or hate has made. I will listen to what you say. You and I can turn and look at the silent river and wait. We know the current is there, hidden, and there are comings and goings from miles away that hold the stillness exactly before us. What the river says, that is what I say. Thanks, folks, for listening to me tonight, for inviting me. This is a great thing you got going, Tom. It's fantastic to be here. Appreciate it.
Awesome, Bill. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing a William Stafford classic with us. Bill is, again, findable on Twitter at WJ Neumeier, Neumire, and you can find Verdad Magazine at verdad, VERDAD magazine.org. He also reviews books for Vallum Magazine, and his first book, Estrus, is available through Amazon and also the publisher Kelsey Books. So again, if you are interested in performance anxiety, you can go no further than tell us, me and the co-organizer, Kristen Garth, who I'm happy to introduce next. So Kristen Garth is a pushcart, Best in the Net, and Riesling-nominated sonnet stalker. Her sonnets have stalked journals like Glass, Yes, 521, Luna Luna, and more. She's the author of 13 books of poetry, including Pink Plastic House from Maverick Duck Press, Candy Cigarette Woman Child Noir from the Hedgehog Poetry Press, the forthcoming Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream from Twisted Press, The Meadow from APEP Publications, which I was very happy to review recently, and Shut Your Eyes, Succubi. You can follow her on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE, and you can find more work on her website, KristenGarth.com. Take it away, Kristen. Thanks again for being, the other rock for performance anxiety.
I have a variety of spooky poems in different ways, and the first one comes from Shut Your Eyes, Succubi, which is published by Maverick Duck Press and Kendall Bell, who is also in this reading tonight, and it's called Zenobia. A wedding which you waited for a year, her innocence reward for yours so new. A decade since your demon disappeared, depravity in dreams you still review. The night, a dress of white reveals a thigh, with burned-in bud you water with your tears. A teenage lark, so casual, her lie. A honeycup you suckled at for years. Zenobia, their harlots marked with flame. A house that hits your head each night you sleep. You drink their nectar marked with shame. The face once made you smile, now makes you weep. Your fingers trace a story petals tell. Your angel bears the bell-shaped mark of hell. And then I have two that are from Flutter, Southern Gothic Fever Dream, and that's going to be published by Twisted Press in January on my birthday, so I'm excited about that. The first one's called The Garden of Evolution. A season we don't speak about. Peach fuzz, follicles push out. Fine hair coruscated in a languid sun was abandoning, season done. Unaware it is a phase. What glitters will become malaise. Bereavement, though no one has died. Just exsanguinated, calcified. From an open window whisper, they say it was a fever dream. Pores weep before a phantom teen. His platinum hair, gray-green eye, midnight a kiss so deep it plants a seed. They cannot fathom, won't believe, in moonbeams, boys erupting horns. A fortnight later, budding thorns. And the next one from Flutter is called A Planting Song. Do you believe I am entombed? A box of bones you could exhume and count components of a corpse, that I will rot alongside your remorse. Will I amount to nothing more than a lone headstone to mar your pristine lake shore, cleared by you but undefined, negligibly is known as adolescent minds, like mine, construed to be insane, or addled from and pain? Was I naive enough to think I could explain how woods defeat bedsheets, ancient griefs, offer nectar you could drink to blossom worlds if you were to devour power? You will believe I am a flower. And the next poem, well, the next two poems are from two different books that I have coming out with APEP Publications. The first is from The Meadow, and it's a BDSM manuscript. So, and the second is called The Stakes, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I let you bury me. I will let you bury me. Pretend it's just a fantasy. Desiccate in your backyard. Small skeleton you trust enough to discard. You designate me scripted lines. Yours eulogies to dirt I swallow after hurts you would tender, a broken girl like me. Someone you wish you weren't able to see so easily. Flower bed over my head, made up marigolds to hide the dead. I take an afternoon to exhume, shovel carefully controlled, to protect orange golden blooms you prune, to cover me inside an afflicted mind. I let you bury me a dozen times. And the last poem, The Stakes, is from a manuscript about fire being used against women as a tool of misogyny. And here it is, the stakes. The stakes for women aren't history. When you're 19, Bangladesh, Mississippi, they're testosterone, kerosene, boyfriends betrayed, masters obscene, maybe female bringing you to a roof, demanding silence, watch aloof, while one will hold you by your head. The price of truth, 4 days burned, mummified, then dead. Undone by matches, misogyny, a 19-year-old too in Mississippi, burnt lips attempting some man's name, what she might mean, contorted, pain and flame. Coincidence? These stakes, still fires, men we may not survive. In 2019, they're burning alive. And my poem from Dead Poet is from Tennessee Williams. Make it bigger so I can read it. And it's called Clover. Where did it go? These are fragrant acres where evening comes, long hours late, and the still unmoving air cools the fevered hands of fate. Meadows where the afternoon hangs suspended in a flower, and the moments of our doom drift upon a weightless hour. And we who thought that surely night would bring us triumph or defeat, only find the stars are white, clover at our naked feet. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristen. That was beautiful. And if you want to keep up with many of Kristen's forthcoming projects, again, you can find them on her website at Kristen Garth, KristinGarth.com. Or again, you can find her on Twitter at Lola and Jolie. So I'm going to call Mila back because Mila unfortunately got dropped from the call. So I'm going to add her back in here because she'll be our next reader after Sam Fox. Mila, are you back in here?
Yes.
All right. Magnificent. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to introduce our next reader, who is Samuel J. Fox. So Samuel J. Fox is a bisexual essayist and poet living in North Carolina. He's poetry editor at Bending Genres, LLC. He appears in numerous online and print journals. And Samuel is a returning not only reader of Performance Anxiety, but also MC when I was out getting married in August. So thank you so much, Samuel, for being here as always. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. So this first poem is, I guess, a night or a nocturne poem, and I won't have a title for it yet, so we'll just leave it untitled. There is always a catch-22 for looking up at an autumn moon. You will never not see her face. You will never not feel his breath on your neck. Moonlight strikes you well at this angle. You can almost forget. You are ugly awash in an unabashed reflection, the B-side of sunlight. The air has chilled. The grass has been mown. There will never not be a memory, like a spider's thread across the forehead, disturbing a moment, drunk, delirious, and still thirsty for a love that has not yet arrived. You worry that even if it does one day make its way into your arms, your heart will not open, like a door jammed, having remained unopened for a decade. Now, you have seen the spirit in what you wanted to become for someone else's affection. It no longer fits you, like the body after death. In the mollified light raying across the lawn, you lie down in the dew and become silent. For silence, too, can be a prayer to no or any God in particular. A moment, too, can be a new hope for a miracle, so long as you live into its fold. What you make of it, whatever origami you fold to shape your life, is a container you chose, that you designed. There's no use in backpedaling. Let them go. The lovers of yesteryear, they moved to the city of dreams and aspirations, while you stayed in the country of longing and belief and goat path towards heaven. So you stand up in the moonlight. You let it bathe you glistening. It is not in the city where this can happen. Only here can you be alone and not despair. It is here you can forget love's shape, only to meet it again as though for the first time. This next poem is kind of a happier poem. This is kind of a spooky Halloween poem that I wrote for an issue coming up in another journal. This is called Nosferatu Goes to the Halloween Ball. Pale under the neon orange disco ball, sharp-toothed and dressed like a knife, he glides across the fog machine floor riddled with empty pumps. He is unabashed, high-cheekboned living ghost, precarious in the dimness of a room, scented with sweat and flesh and the thump of face from a trapped soul sonata about grinding. He has been sobered from plasma for a week. He has a hunger, not for minions, not for blood, but for romance and a night of ill-advised appearance. A woman nestles into the crook of his hips, asks if he wants to dance in the way of the living, and for a moment, he blends into the music. He blurs into a moment of life he hasn't felt since he was alive hundreds of years prior. Tonight, having never been to a prom, having never suffered the injustices of college, he breaks a mood. He learns to dance, a dance not of the damned, but of what the living do. No fear of stakes or bullets bursting through coffins, no fear of his heart removed with a silver knife, no fear of when he will thirst or drink, only that the night will end. And the woman who slow danced with him, commenting that he was cool to the touch, a suave gentleman, that reminds her of an old boyfriend she had, and that if she'd let him, she'd have placed her neck on his shoulder, not knowing she was in any danger. And my final poem before my seance poem is a short one called Rolling the Bones. My life is currently the same as being crucified, upside down, ass backwards by anything I love. Do you think this makes a martyr of me, this life I never wanted, but live in despite being moved toward death? The white gleam of my knuckle bones gripping whatever saves me? Listen, if you are anything holy, don't tell me. And then my final poem is a poem by Linda Gregg, who passed away this year, and this is titled God's Places. Does the soul care about the mightiness of its love? No. The soul is a place, and love must find its way there. A fisherman on his boat swung a string of fish around his head and threw it across the water where it landed at my feet. That was a place. One day I walked into a village that was all ruin. It was noon. Nobody was there. The roofs were gone. The silence was heavy. A man came out. Gradually other people, but no one spoke. Then somebody gave me a glass of water with a lump of jam on a spoon in it. It was a place, one of God's places, but love was not with me. I breathed the way grapevines live and give in to the whole dream of being and not being. The soul must be experienced to be achieved. If you love me as much as you say you love me, stay. Let us make a place of that rightness. The soul speaks. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you, Tom and Kristen, for having me tonight. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Beautiful, Samuel. Thank you so much for lucking out on these seance poems. Linda Gregg, another great. And if you want to find more of Samuel's work, you can find him on Twitter at Samuel J. Fox. You can also find him, on Neutral Spaces at the page neutralspaces.co/Samuel J. Fox. So Giacomo Pope's project, giving a host to another awesome writer. So without further ado, we're going to introduce our next reader at about the halfway point of our reading list tonight, Mila Blust, another performance anxiety MVP and veteran. Since seeking publication just over a year ago, Mila's work has been nominated 3 times for Best of the Net, and it appeared in dozens of various different literary journals. Her debut poetry collection, Skeleton Parade, is available now from APEP Publications. She's head publicist and social media manager for Animal Heart Press, as well as a contributing editor for Barron Magazine. Take it away, Mila. We look forward to hearing your poems.
Thank you so much, Tom and Kristen. I appreciate it. So this first poem I had is called The Need. The need grows over the years, an ocean in my throat, swallowing gallon after gallon, and I am still thirsty. The need doesn't care what it swallows. I sang a song of honey lies, and the need sang a song of disease. Feed me, it cried, and I, mother, nursed the hungry demon at my breast. Colostrum, the color of whiskey, later pills to calm my nerves. I wished I could be the girl who was chased and turned down cake, but sugar hummed in my veins. The need gobbled up everything in its path, and before long it started to occupy more than my throat. The need called my hips home, settled into my belly, stroked my thighs, declared itself my friend, my lover. It turned down phone calls, ignored messages, avoided social obligations, consumed my dignity in one large gulp, and washed it down with wine. This next poem is called Offering. When I pressed the blade to my thigh, he took the rein. When I came up spitting blood, forget-me-nots, and pavement, he still sang my name. I've come to him with flaws. He is calm and dutiful. I let him use his claws. He is humming moon and midnight breeze. He is forceful parting of innocent knees, and my lips are a rose thrumming with bees. I am an imperfect creature. I've left very little for God. I am broken wings of dove. There is not much to take, but what he takes, he loves. This next poem is called Siren Song. Lure you with breadcrumb hips and star-stung eyes into my damp forest, ripe with siren song, descendant from ancient bloodlines, soft cottontail fur, and disturbed earth, where thin slivers of desire fold in and over on themselves to become the knife of my lust, where sinew joins with bone and smashes itself against similar softness, where diamond eyes are mirrors and limbs twist into snakes. And then, only then, do I decide whether I am predator or prey. This next poem is called The Killing Jar. I keep you in an hourglass, an angel without wings. I caught you on some blank verse night, a rust bite, star moth thing. My mother says to let you go. No holes, no way to breathe, but your bones hold fossil secrets, a vice I must appease. I only cut ever so lightly, your satin cerise, your rose dust eyelashes closing, my goodbye night dark friend. And then I have the last poem, which is the Séance poem, and it's called Witch Wife by Edna St. Vincent Millay. She is neither pink nor pale, and she never will be all mine. She learned her hands in a fairy tale and her mouth on a valentine. She has more hair than she needs. In the sun 'tis a woe to me, and her voice is a string of colored beads, or steps leading into the sea. She loves me all that she can, and her ways to my ways resign. But she was not made for any man, and she never will be all mine. Thank you so much, Tom and Kristen. I appreciate it. And happy Halloween.
Thank you, Mila. That was beautiful. I loved that phrase, blank verse night, from one of your last poems. And I also love the Kiki Petrosino book that Malay poem gives its name to. So that was a great choice. And if you want to find more of Mila's work, you can find Mila on Twitter at Mila Blust, MELABLUST. And you can find her website, milablust, that same spelling.com. So without further ado, our next reader is going to be Kendall A. Bell. So Kendall A. Bell's poetry has been most recently published in Kissing Dynamite and Dark Marrow. He was nominated for Sundress Publications' Best of the Net collection in 2007, 2009, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2015, and 2018. He's the author of 2 full-length collections, The Roads Don't Love You and The Forced Hush of Quiet, and 25, wow, chapbooks. He is the founder and co-editor of the online journal Chanterelle's Notebook, and like you heard from Kristen, he's also the publisher and editor of Maverick Duck Press. His chapbooks are available through Maverick Duck Press, and he lives in southern New Jersey. Thanks so much for being here, Kendall, and for putting out all the amazing work that you do in those capacities.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I guess everybody can hear me, I hope. I'm going to start with one from a chapbook that I have sort of reissued. It's a second edition that I'm doing, and it's called Siberia, and it's called You Breathe In While I Exhale. A strange sink of melancholy, our method of exasperation that holds a wistful regret. We alternate the pattern, shift our bodies over stiffened fabric on separate ends of the room. You want to inch closer, rest your eyes, and drift off into ambivalence. My toes tap restless evidence in Morse code on the laminate floor. I catch words in my throat, bury them under the floorboards. This next one is in my current book called The Forced Hush of Quiet. It's called The Constellations Are Fading. They are descending into a plodding death, swallowed by the expanse of black that will consume each of us. Remembrance is a shattered bottle, carelessly littered over forgotten country roads. We once danced like the most brilliant of lights, seen only in the most remote regions, a treasured locket that held heartbeats and promises, but all stars explode. This one is in my most recent chapbook called The Dark Water Horizon. It's called How You Will Sing to Them and How Your Verses Fall. Like hymns rising from an altar, like the voice of carried torment raining down over an empty prairie. You sing louder, feel the pulse of blood, burst the shackles of this burden. They will offer invisible solace. They will display their discomfort over the missed high notes. They will embrace demise, your suffering, their lullaby in the absence of your bones. This one is one of the lighter poems in the lightest section of my current book, The Forced Hush of Quiet. It's called The Sweetest Honeybee in the Hive. You are the orange light breaking through the blue and black of morning. You are the first drip of maple syrup over pancakes. You are the crackling of a fire pit on a summer night. You are the smell of blueberry coffee in the afternoon. You are the blinking light on my cell phone, the message I've waited all day for. You are the sound of evening in a screened-in porch with fireflies watching our skin touching. You are the thunderstorm rattling my insides, the smell of rain, the fingers around mine. You are breakfast in bed, over and over. This is a newish poem. It's called An Elegy. You are upended, left in the dark of morning, a disheveled picture of sadness. Your remains were gathered and sheltered from the stranglehold of a relentless predator. My rage and anguish I carried with me for days. The weight of blame and lamentation. I cannot make you whole again. You once shielded me and protected me from being prey to a ceaseless flare. I never had the chance to save you from a cyclone's grasp. This poem is my final before the seance poem. It is in my first full length called The Roads Don't Love You. It's called I Am Breaking My Bones to Fit Into Places. I desperately need to be like the curve of your legs, the arc of your foot, like the Golden Gate Bridge, the coastline of Nova Scotia, the sleeves of your jacket. I push my achy joints to their breaking point to touch the things you've left behind, like your headphones, the cord balled up in knots, like the dog who is confused and missing you. I listen closely for the snap. It is when I love you the most. It is the only gift I can give you now that you've put your boots on and took that swan dive. I want to be that brave. I want us to fuck boneless. I want redemption. So the Dead Poet poem that I'm going to read is called Constellation of Associations, and it's by Christy Shoemaker, who passed away this year at just 27. I take solace in knowing nothing actually ever touches. Something about atoms and molecules and invisible force fields, always creating a safe distance. But you are the one thing I desperately need to feel. I liked kissing you outside. We put on a show for the spiders, watching us with their 1,000,000 eyes. Did they see you bite my lip? Did they see that I liked it? One crawled into my hair and is probably laying eggs in my brain. I am staring at myself in the mirror, waving my hand in front of my reflection. Each pass across smudges my features into oblivion. We are charcoal drawings on the floor. We are the most beautiful and fragile picture in existence. Thanks for having me, Tom and Kristen.
That was beautiful, Kendall. Thank you so much for sharing that work by Christy, whose spirit is with us tonight for sure. And also, Kendall, for those of us taking notes at home, is the master of the reading order, where there was that great poem of absence, the empty prairie, and the missed high notes, and suddenly those were filled by pancakes, which I think was just beautiful. So thank you for doing that. And if you want to find more of Kendall's work, you can find Kendall on Twitter at @KAshleyBell. And again, Kendall's second full-length collection, The Forced Hush of Quiet, was just released in September, and the second edition of his chapbook, Siberia, is now available on Amazon. So our next reader coming up now is Caleb Tutt. Caleb Tutt is a writer, poet, and narrative designer from South Louisiana. He's working on his debut novel about lucid dreaming. Take it away, Caleb. Thank you so much for being on this seance for Performance Anxiety.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And just before I get started, I want to say that I am going to be giving a brief background of each poem, just very brief, so you can understand a bit as to why and when I wrote them. And hopefully, if you can't connect with it, this background should hopefully give you some, important information. So I'll just go ahead and get started with my first poem. And this is one that came to me in the middle of the night. And it kind of focuses, I know that, I'm sure all of us especially have had those moments where everything that you thought you knew kind of just flipped on its head, and your world kind of went upside down. This is about that moment. Now, I mean, as writers, we all do this thing where we have that moment and we write about it over and over again. Even if we don't recognize it, we go back and we see that it keeps popping back up. And this moment in particular, I had written about it, under the guise of wolves tiptoeing on broken glass, snakes in the grass. There were all sorts of different, images, but it was all the same type of story. It was the night that I had to run. But this time the poem came to me and I realized that it wasn't about me running. It was about the perspective of the person who made us run. And so this is my first poem, Where Angels Fear to Tread. Blankets drape haphazard across empty beds. Spiraling whirlpools of bed sheets and pillow casings. Dirty mongrels. They won't ever listen to you. But then, why would they? Voice muffled by underbrush of regenerative deception. Race down vacant hallways. The rapture has come. Corridors pulsate with sound waves fleeting. Mildew assaults your nasal cavity. Stale corpse aroma. Phasing bodies blink in and out, in and out. Fallen angels fell from disobedience. Temptation, bait. Lure hooked, pierced through soft upper palates. Yanked down to the sinner's land. Weep, wicked thing, for when land parts and swallows you forever, you will beg to be lonely again. And that leads me into my second poem. So as I mentioned before, you know, when I recognize that pattern of that same moment coming back over and over and over again, I realized that I was, you know, mentally sort of stuck in that moment. And I didn't want to continue to be, you know, just stuck there forever. I wanted to figure out a way to get past that. And that's where this poem came from. It was about me learning to face those demons head on instead of just, you know, kind of writing about them every so often. I wanted to really face them. And so this is where that poem came from, and it's called You Can't Keep Running From This. History has a funny way of repeating itself in broken stutters and cavernous echoes. Imaginary friends, their lanky bodies hunched over, cower in the dark, wet corners of our minds. In the dark of the night, without the safety of sunlight, they grab a hold of our ankles, and we are naive enough to believe that thin silk sheets are enough to stop them. Maybe we can move around, shift our positions 180 degrees, sleep with our feet at the top of the bed. So we try to hide, but their spindly puppeteer fingers wriggle around, tussle our hair, tie the strands in elaborate bunny knots. The truth of it all, I've learned, is that the only way to cease their control is to stare into their nebulous eyes, grab those demons by the scruff of their necks, jam your fist down their throats, rip out their still beating hearts, read the glyphs etched into their organs, find their weakness, break their spines, and suture your soul with golden bygones. Take comfort in the knowledge that they possess the ability to resurrect themselves, and you possess the ability to do it all over again. And that finally leads me into my last poem, and this is where I realized that I had overcome that moment of being stuck, and that I recognized too that I wasn't defined by that moment. I was defined by so many other things than that. And that's where this led me to my poem, my final poem, Ideology. I believe in extraterrestrial creatures, that in the vastness of outer space, we cannot be its only inhabitants. The songs of Jupiter are too beautiful to be considered discarded sound waves. I believe in black magic and witches' brews, in hexes and curses, voodoo and hoodoo, and that karma will create equilibrium. That numbers are more than numbers, and that we are more than human. I believe that time is nonlinear, that reality is malleable and impossible to comprehend. We are time manipulators. Pause, rewind, fast forward. I believe that dreams are portals to other dimensions. Nightmares are more than subconscious fears. Lucidity is more than enhanced awareness. I believe in genuine human kindness, that people are inherently good, that I believe in forgiveness for those who are not, because of every second chance I didn't deserve. I believe because no matter how many times I've believed and been proven wrong by the hard fist of cruelty, I refuse to let cruelty declare its victory over me. And that's my final poem, which leads me into the poem by a dead poet, Miller Williams. This is his poem, Love Poem with Toast. Some of what we do to make things happen. The alarm to wake us up, the coffee to perk, the car to start. The rest of what we do trying to keep something from doing something. The skin from aging, the hoe from rusting, the truth from getting out. With yes and no like the poles of a battery, powering our passage through the days. We move, as we call it, forward, wanting to be wanted, wanting not to lose the rainforest, wanting the water to boil, wanting not to have cancer, wanting to be home by dark, wanting not to run out of gas. As each of us wants the other, watching at the end, as both want not to leave the other alone, as wanting to love beyond this meat and bone, we gaze across breakfast and pretend. And that's the final poem. And thank you so much, both Tom and Kristen, for letting me take part in this. It's been an honor. First time ever doing something like this. I really genuinely appreciate it.
That's so awesome. It was great to have you, Caleb. We appreciate you sharing all these poems of demons and aliens and black magic and witchcraft to get us into the spooky season. So thank you so much. And for the listeners who want to find more of Caleb's work, you can find Caleb on Twitter at KALEBT96, Caleb T96. And Caleb has a website where you can find more of his work, Caleb Tutt, KALEBTUTT.wordpress.com. Our next reader is Amy Alexander, and Amy Alexander is the author of poetry and art book The Legend of the Kettle Daughter from the Hedgehog Poetry Press. So go ahead, Amy, take it away with these poems, and thank you for being our penultimate reader this evening.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you so much, Kristen, for having me. The first poem I'm going to read appeared in Mansion, the anthology about Slender Man that Kristen edited along with Justin Parcher. The first time I heard about Slender Man was when I read an article about these two girls who stabbed their friend as a way to summon the Slender Man. So this is a poem called Little Girls Doing Terrible Things. Two tweens, witches on the wire, electric familiars, cantos written in light. This night, into the fire, a ball of hair, a wax figurine, skein of wool or paper pulled, fur to shoulders gathered close to burning air. Dare him to take you. Pull shadows to the circle of girls doing terrible things. Roll call then. These two take a brick to their mother. Cave dark hallway, sister blood thick, in secret faith and spoken tongues. This one, her teacher, Sunday school, 33 silent mouths, whispering vespers in rivulets red. And these, 16, plum skin, told to be sweet, placid, pleasant, face pair, buried friend. Never name the place she lays until you're crazy. All around them roves the shadow man, sticks in his skin on his belly toward the fire, watches them spit on the green limb. Then they shuffle, a dozen apertures told to keep them faceless. And that suits them. And that suits him. Now they look like his children. Now they look ready to bring home. And I'm going to move right on to my Séance poem because it's a long one, but it's a good one. I'm going to be summoning James Dickey. I went to college in South Carolina and had the fortune of studying with several poets who were mentored by James Dickey. He often came to class drunk, but he was very supportive of underrepresented writers and was a great mentor, even though he has a mixed reputation. This is his poem about bestiality. It's called The Sheep Child. Farm boys wild to couple with anything, with soft wooded trees, with mounds of earth, mounds of pine straw, will keep themselves off animals by legends of their own. In the hay tunnel dark and dung of barns, they will say, I have heard tell that in a museum in Atlanta, way back in a corner somewhere, there's this thing that's only half sheep, like a woolly baby pickled in alcohol, because those things can't live. His eyes are open, but you can't stand to look. I heard from somebody who, but this is now almost all gone. The boys have taken their own true wives in the city. The sheep are safe on the West Hill pasture, but we who were born there still are not sure, are we? Because we remembered in the terrible dust of museums. Merely with his eyes, the sheep child may be saying, I am here in my Father's house. I, who am half of your world, came deeply to my mother in the long grass of the west pasture, where she stood like moonlight, listening for foxes. It was something like love from another world that seized her from behind, and she gave, not lifting her head out of dew, without ever looking her best self to that great need. Turned loose, she dipped her face farther into the chill of the earth, and in a sound of sobbing, of something stumbling away, began, as she must do, to carry me. I woke dying, in the summer sun of the hillside, with my eyes far more than human. I saw for a blazing moment the great grassy world from both sides, man and beast in the round of their need, and the hill wind stirred in my wool. My hoof and my hand clasped each other. I ate my one meal of milk and died, staring. From dark grass I came straight to my father's house, whose dust whirls up in the halls for no reason, when no one comes, piling deep in a hellish mild corner, and through my immortal waters I meet the sun rains eye to eye, and they fail at my closet of glass. Dead, I am most surely living in the minds of farmers. I am he who drives them like wolves from the hound bitch and calf, and from the chased ewe in the wind. They go into woods, into bean fields. They go deep into their known right hands, dreaming of me. They groan, they wait, they suffer themselves. They marry, they raise their kind. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
That was awesome, Amy. There's a James Dickey book like 2 feet from my foot right now, and that poem was spectacular. So if you want to find more of Amy's work, you can find Amy on both Twitter and Instagram. On Twitter at IrieMom, IRIEMOM, and you can find her artwork on Instagram at Amy with a Pen. So without further ado, our last official scheduled reader is John Leo. And John Leo is a writer and game designer. He's written 2 chapbooks, The Long Weekend is Over from CWP Collective Press, and Gulag Picture Radio from Ghost City Press. His first game is Wolves of Mercia. He co-founded the reading series Poets Attack and has an MFA from Butler University. John, thanks for waiting for the whole lineup to read, and we appreciate you closing out this poetry seance with us tonight.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. This first one's called Ain't Sit in Judgment. Like a security guard chucking crushed Pepsi can through the bars at the bird exhibit, I'm trying to startle something beautiful. 7 falcons drink a bucket of chum. Their beaks are yellow knives. The paint is drying. Somebody somewhere embalms a squirrel, paints a still life of anthracite and rotting peaches. Just because I grew up here does not mean I'm coming home. The second poem is called Action at a Distance. It's after Jamal May and Albert Einstein. Research and development tells us when one photon jiggles, no matter how distant from its mate, even if they are not jiving, not texting, hanging on red like an illiterate, that mate is gonna jiggle too. Wild how one can be wrapped in a yard of silk and buried in the savagest cavern of Colorado. If I blast a bangin' mixtape, they're both gonna buzz. I don't know what bonds them together, what quantum threads entangle and which threaten weird future apocalypse. But yesterday I found my mouth moving on its own, reciting Iago's poisonous minerals, tongue dripping with white hunger. I called my eventual murderer. We talked for hours. He said the funniest thing. He said there were rockets in the air again. Had I got spun up on that exceptionalism shit? Had I got a little hungry? Anyway, he said, I was just thinking of you and I was doing some reading. Do you ever think about Mom and where she got to? Sometimes when I give the corner man a couple bucks, I can kinda hear her humming Nina Simone. And even when I'm feeling good, if I park with a tire on the line, my spine starts to shiver. And last year I met this hunter from Mozambique, and he said every time he kills a croc, he watches a ghost explode out the thing's head. I wonder if you and I are like that. Action over distance. I Shakespeare, you Iago. I rifle, you ghost. Brother, did I ever approach apology? Did I ever find the chance to speak of that shame I've been carrying? I have drowned myself in the sink every night for years, so when you wake up with the whole damn sea in your mouth, that's my way of begging you, drink, brother, and forgive. One more normal poem. It's called Farewell Transmission, after Jason Molina, the singer. After the set, the singer settles a pot of black beans to boil, then he dies. The beans boil, a friend finds the apartment door unlocked and Jason decorating the kitchen tile. I am getting older. I am learning to think before I unhitch my jaw. What I mean to say is no fossil blue fire could convince me that man died with good grace on his tongue, and it's got me worried. Blue Midwest moon, what happens when I don't get better? When the doctors can do nothing but shake and rattle like a satchel of teeth. When the blood work stops returning results and jump starts instead the dull, gnawing habit of death. Lover, I have been working this crossroads for years, digging my own grave, hoping the shovel would break on its own. It has not broken yet. Lover, this is my way of telling you my body is breaking like an old black hen, beak full of blood, ribs arched like the hot and empty tent of a pilgrim killed by wolves and never eaten. I'm going to read my Séance poem now. It's by Rainer Maria Rilke, master of the end line. This poem's The Archaic Torso of Apollo. We cannot know his legendary head with eyes like ripening fruit. And yet his torso is still suffused with brilliance from inside like a lamp in which his gaze, now turned to low, gleams in all its power. Otherwise, the curved breast could not dazzle you so, nor could a smile run through the placid hips and thighs to that dark center where procreation flared. Otherwise, this stone would seem defaced beneath the translucent cascade of the shoulders and would not glisten like a wild beast's fur, would not, from all the borders of itself, burst like a star, for here there is no place that does not see you. You must change your life. Thanks, y'all.
Wow, John, what an incredible ending. That was fantastic, and that poem absolutely speaks for itself. And if you want to find more of John's poems, you can find him on Twitter @_John Leo, JOHNLEO with underscore first. And he's got a board game again just released called The Wolves of Mercia. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to wolvesofmercia.com. So sadly, it is time to conclude tonight's sublimely frightening poetry seance. So thank you so much to all the amazing poets who shared their work and the works of poets past with us tonight, and to every listener out there who's generously given this hour to poetry. We very much hope you're going to join us for our next reading on Thursday, November 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And to close this very special evening of performance anxiety, now that all of our readers have kind of gotten their poems out there and can sit back, relax with some pumpkin spice or some such thing, I'm going to read a short sequence of poems by Danielle Colabert called Survival. And this was translated from the original French by the American poet Norma Cole. It's my seance poem for the evening. Survival was the last suite of poems Colabert published before her death by her own hand on July 23rd, 1978. So again, this suite of 6 untitled poems is called Survival. I, leaving voice without response to articulate sometimes the words that silence response to other ear never, if to muteness the world, not a noise, sinks into the cosmos blue, no longer question that vertical trip. I, leaving, slide to the horizon, all equal, all mortal, from the eye on, at full speed, fleeing the horizon, at last to hear only music in the cries. Enough. Enough. Exit. To enter, born on garbage, hardly recognize the ground, emerged from salty slime, the fetus come out of the drain, solar plexus eaten away, anguish, diffusing lungs, breath, gasping. Squeeze the neck by the cord waking, trembling, waking, burnt, consumed bones, body break out of touch, caresses, far from lips, drank, memory of the body. Letting go, present the instant survival, without knowing on what to open the energy to the imaginary answered stutterings hardly at the rips, the cries, from the edges of wounds not enough, dove black into the blood bath, to be worked the veins for words. I, speech to open mouth, open to say, I see to whom, swung to chaos weaponless, will survive or not resistance to blows, the long-lasting life. I, gone, exploration of the void, groping against day, already manacles on the hands, brands on the wrists. At the feet, irons, chains, the distance of a step, the unity of measure. I scraping my earth with that drag, the noise in the space. First of all, on the tape, Promethean sound, in the vulture in the throat. At blows to blood beaten back endlessly towards silence. In the middle of the forehead, the flat future desert. Behind, hidden perhaps, the body to be accumulated. Little living cell with searching head, going wanting desperately to stick its juice somewhere, the goodness to the mucosa, the waiting at the orifices, the silent first celebration of life, swallowed up by lava flow, sticking speech wall, between which nothing to do, to get the sounds out barely beyond death, stretching nerves to tune up the sound, the lips higher, the bone skull resounded, strangulation overtone to hold barely beyond death, or not to smile with smile to empty in reflections, to darkness face extinguished, scarcely light from distant sight, gone on the 7-day circular hell, creation torments and rests included, sleep of full earth and dreams included. Whose sun, sometimes music on wide sky of open, on flat back the one apart, the sheltered one likely freely drawing on the thrust of the bearable. From that side, from deep enough, the writing on body, I etching in grit the erased moment, pushing the fever to lips, resonating the gong, or buzzing rom fleeing the head, or drums of survival, or dry desert of dust bombs, and always the flames licking the body with fear. I, of living insect nailed to the wall, seeking living to suffer more, self-dreaming it even nightly in view of the definitive. I, time of what, spreading wave rolled to gaze, untiringly, from the eye, liquid, measured red, fragments imperceptible to little eye of time vision none. Onto space, never more than a big field, the rest open to the rower, the celestial visions, sucking from sentences toothless sustenance, or beaten by the tidal wave footing lost in basement syntax. Days of passion, light from veins which comes in the surface of articulation. I said, blazing energy, the cry, or how burning, never said.